Okay. Good evening, everyone. Today we'll be discussing about the chapter on infectious disease in human. Um, and so there's three main items that we need to know for infectious disease in human. If you are taking the pure bio syllabus, they are basically what are infectious disease. Second, it will be the structures of a bacterial cell and a virus. Third will be how can infectious disease be prevented and managed. Now, if you are taking the combined bio or science bio, 11.2 is not covered in your syllabus, so you can actually skip that segment lah. So when we talk about infectious disease, two key principles is something that you will need to understand, which is first of all, how do actually infectious disease spread from one person to one person, and what exactly is the opposite of infectious disease? It's the non-infectious disease where they cannot and be identified. So these are some of the examples that we need to know. Next, we must be also be able to explain what causes these diseases. Is it the bacteria and virus, and how the modes of the spread is through bodily fluid, by food, or by water contamination. So, what is a disease? A disease generally is actually highlighted as something that is actually a condition that will cause the body to function less effectively. So more importantly, they in terms of your normal body function, you would not totally stop your body function. That means it doesn't mean that your body totally doesn't work at all. Instead, it's just less effective, meaning that maybe you feel more sleepy, you feel more sluggish. But what happens for a disease is that this doesn't come suddenly. There is actually the disease will actually produce some specific signs of symptoms. So symptom here can be actually described and or observed. For example, you have a running nose, you have fever, you have flu, or even you feel nausea. So these are some examples. Sign of disease can also be observed, and more importantly, it can be measured. Okay, so it must be either these two. And the examples are like, the amount of rash you have, the frequency of how many times you cough in a day, do you actually have vomiting, what's the color of the vomit, and things like this. So this is a sign. Symptoms would be usually described by what the patient actually feels. So like what I shared previously, fatigue. Fatigue means tiredness, and nausea means it's like the feeling of wanting to vomit, and of course, headache. So, what are some of the disease in your syllabus that you need to take note of? Broadly speaking, diseases can be split into two main categories. They are either infectious or non-infectious. So, you may want to pause the video here to try to arrange the different diseases, the name of the disease to which category. Is it infectious or non-infectious? So, this is a very simple map that allows you to do it on your worksheet that you can do. So you may want to pause the video if you want to try. But moving on, this is where the answer is. So infectious generally are diseases that are easily spread to one another. Whereas for non-infectious, generally it keeps within the person itself. Like for example, asthma. Asthma is something that you are born with it, and it's not something that is spreadable. Similarly, for diabetes, please don't be confused with diseases that is passed on from generation to generation. This is dependent on your genetic makeup and hereditary. But if you have a diabetes, you to someone that is unrelated to you, it doesn't mean that you can actually just spread by either sneezing or flu and what's not. So it is kept. It's usually more self-contained. And of course, dust allergy likewise. For infectious, it's more towards of, you would see most of it is through the influenza or things that has related to common cold. Your COVID-19 is a very good example of infectious disease where you can see that within a short period of time, the spread of the disease throughout worldwide. And of course, we have other things that we actually do to actually limit the amount of this spread, either through social distancing, where we actually don't stay near, we wear physical masks to act barriers for the transmission, and these are some example. HIV and AIDS, of course, it is transmittable by your it's a sexually transmitted disease where as long as there's an exchange of bodily fluid with an infected person, this can actually leads to the spread. And of course, we have malaria as another example. So what exactly is this infectious and non-infectious disease? In exams, commonly they will ask you to compare and contrast between infectious and non-infectious disease, and you are required to actually give some examples. So the examples is like as shared in the previous slide, the ones that you have to state in your exam. So what exactly is pathogens and what are some examples of pathogens? So pathogens generically it's what we call the either the bacteria or the virus that allows you to spread the disease of name. So in a very generic form, we call pathogens as disease-causing organisms. These organisms can be microorganisms, it can also be larger, but most of the time in your syllabus, we are dealing with the microorganisms. And the examples of pathogens, like what we shared, it's your bacteria and virus. So in terms of infectious and for non-infectious disease, the key word here is that they are not caused by pathogens, meaning they are not caused by either your virus or your bacteria. That is why they are not able to spread easily. Hence, when we look at how is then passed on, right? Because if it's not able to spread from one person to another person easily, then why do we still have the disease? Because this the way that it's being transferred is actually quite self-contained, meaning by inheriting it is most probably you get from your parents, from either your parents. Okay, so it's passed on from generation to another generation. You can also be exposed to environmental factors like pollution. So this is actually very controlled in a sense. Then of course, the other ones is related to lifestyle. So for example, there are patients who do not actually have diabetes when they were being born. So progressively, because they take a lot of sugary food, and of course having a very sediment kind of lifestyle where they lack of exercise, these including things like smoking, taking in not a healthy diet, these are also conditions that lead to some of these diseases like diabetes, kidney failure to come about. So this is generically known as the parts of the non-infectious disease. Then comes a question as to how then the infectious disease actually are being able to spread among person to person. In your syllabus, you are required to know what are the different modes of spreading. In this case, there is a few. There is the first one we have, which is the droplets in the air. The second mode is by direct contact, and the third one is by contamination of food and water. So in exam, a very common, very easy, direct kind of questions is they will ask you how are infectious disease spread. You are required to not just give the header, which is just now like highlighted, the droplets, direct control, as well as contaminated food and water, but you also have to give the elaboration. So each of it can be about 3 marks with the elaboration, or it can be an extension kind of question where you have to write even more, so 6 marks. So 1 mark for the mode and then another mark for the elaboration. So when we talk about elaboration here, we are looking at explaining further what is meant by droplet in the air. So in this case, when we look at it, what is in terms of how infectious disease spread through the droplets in the air, you have someone from the infectious who is infected, usually the one that has already carried the microorganism, the bacteria or the virus, actually let out a sneeze or a cough. This will then cause the bacteria within the body to be expelled out of from the person's body. And naturally, surrounding us, especially in Singapore where it's very humid, you have a lot of water droplets in the air or water vapor in the air. This will then trap some of the respiratory kind of medical disease, the pathogens that led the pathogens to actually be carried because they are light to another person. So, for example, for the healthy person, as long as there's the intake of the pathogens, that will actually lead to penetration into the body for infection. So that is why, in a way, we also look at proximity. as a way to actually manage this spread. So by being very far away from these water droplets that has been infected, there is lesser risk of being exposed to the pathogens. Another way of us actually being able to limit exposure for this is to have a physical barrier, and this physical barrier is through a mask. Okay. What is meant by this physical barrier? It basically meant that there is a physical item that separates your maybe your nose, your mouth to the exposed air droplets that has been infected already. So this helps to minimize the spread. This helps to minimize exposure. But again, this is not 100% foolproof because, of course, when we look at the microorganisms, the bacteria and virus, they tend to be very small and microscopic. That's why sometimes these bacteria or pathogens are able to pass through even down to the very low permeability of the cells. So then comes into the second mode of infectious disease spread, the part about direct contact. So some disease are generally spread through person to person, such as the exchange of bodily fluid through sexual intercourse. And one very good example for this is, for example, your gonorrhea, syphilis, or even your HIV or AIDS. So an infectious disease can be spread even when skin or mucous membrane through the moist lining of the nose, mouth, throat, and genitals of an infected person come into contact with the skin of another person. Now, I think a more not so sexually transmitted infection, but the more other form of disease are like your foot, hand, mouth disease. So that's where the pathogens are trapped at the saliva or the mucus of the infected person. Then generally this saliva is being infected around the body of young kids that actually on the table and what's not, or even the dishes that they eat, the spoon. So for another maybe a person who is healthy gets exposed to this when they clean and what's not. Hence, that's why to combat or to limit some of these exposure, what some routines that people do is actually they they go and clean their hands with alcohol, with soap to minimize exposure. For STIs, then there will be, abstinence where they don't actually come close contact with each other. Or in some cases, they will use physical barriers like condoms and what's not to minimize the contact. Then finally, the third point is contamination by food and water. So food and water, this is where we are looking at the bacteria or the pathogens are actually being trapped at these decomposed or decaying kind of food materials, or even down to like you take a bite, you share food with an infected person. So some of these pathogens can be trapped in the food or the water. Contaminated food and water, that's where, based on the standard of living and the quality of life, some of the, if there isn't proper sewage and things like this, that can lead to a lot of passing of microorganisms or disease. One example is like, doing laundry or bathing in common reservoir that is used for drinking can lead to some of these things, even down to, like toileting and like using it for toiletry and what's not. So these are things that we actually do. That's why in Singapore, generally for our reservoir, you don't really, it's really separated from all this sewage and what's not. And in Singapore, they do clamp quite heavy. We do illegal dumping of materials, especially at reservoir, where the water is actually should be used to store and to clean for drinking purposes. So, what can happen is bacteria that cause cholera is one example for contaminated of food and water. So, apart from wearing masks or social distancing, how can these be further limited? We can still see that while all these are physical kinds of barriers, so like the mask is a physical barrier, social distancing is where you increase the proximity. Some of the other examples are like, you can wash your hands regularly. You can also abstinence from having sex, or generally to encourage protected sex. Next is contamination of food. You just make sure you have proper storage in the fridge, having proper sanitation like water filtering, plumbing, and infrastructure to minimize some of these exposure. So in the extension question, if they ever ask questions related to what are the different modes of disease transmission, you are also required to be able to provide examples or solutions on how to minimize exposure or risk of spread. So, in summary, infectious disease can be spread among people to people, and that this spread are done through many different ways, including droplets in the air, direct contact, and contaminated food and water. So, in our next lesson, we will be covering the other learning objective. Okay, that's all. Thank you.